they're removed from the scene. You got the same going on here. So let's quickly look at the various things that happen to our particles as they fall down. They're birthed on frame -200, as I said, and that's just basically to give them a run up. Then we position them on the icon, which you can see here, and we're just using the icon volume to place all our particles. We give them an initial speed of 4, that's just to get them going, so they don't have to start off, at 0 speed, which is kind of unnatural. They start off with a speed of 4, and then gravity takes over and makes sure that they carry on falling downwards. Then we've got gravity taking over, as I said. So we've got gravity here, and we're using a value of 25 just to make sure that the particles don't fall too quickly. Then we have the large wind taking effect, and as you can see, it's blowing the particles over to the left here. We've got the small wind adding another impetus to the particles, so they move over to the left. Then we have drag, and as I said, that's basically there to stop the particles accelerating endlessly, in the wind and gravity. And that just basically gives them a nice slow motion and stops them, as I said, gaining too much energy and the effect running away with itself. Then we have a shape facing operator, and you can see it's facing towards the camera here. And I'm using a material static to actually bring in this snow material. And it doesn't need to change over time. It just needs to be a static material with this radial gradient, which I just showed you, and with this radial transparency as well, and that just produces the kind of effect that I wanted to go for. Now there are lots of different ways that you could probably render the snow, and it's down to you how you want to do that. In this case I've used additive color, but it's maybe a little bit more realistic to use normal transparency. You can use detailed mapped textures of the snowflakes, but generally, when you see a snowflake falling, it blurs quite a lot, and in the end what it kind of comes down to is you see a sort of soft blob with a sort of blurry edge on it. That's actually what you see, so that's what I'm approximating with this texture. Then we've got this deflector. I'll just stop P-flow here for a second, because you can see it's flickering really badly, and you can see I've basically got all of these deflectors in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, all these deflectors which you can see in the scene, and I described earlier, and all particles which actually hit these deflectors get sent out of the event down to this event here where they're deleted. So as I said, this is basically a culling system to remove particles from the scene which are not needed for the final effect. Then if needed, I've got a delete by age option in there. Now that's useful for if you have let's say a much bigger volume of snow and the particles don't hit this collision object here. If that's the case, then these particles can build up, and let's say we had a very long shot, which was say 1,000 frames long or whatever. It would keep on churning out these particles, and they would keep on falling well past the ground plane if there wasn't a ground plane there to kill them off. And because of that, you'd end up with a huge amount of particles building up, which would be completely wasted basically. So it's sometimes a good idea as well to have these catch-all operators just to kill off your particles after a guaranteed period of time that they would certainly hit the ground, or they would certainly have hit a wall by then and stuck to it, whatever. And we're displaying the particles as ticks, as you can see here. So if I just turn on the other snow, we've got snow small here, and I'll set this up to you can see it's actually doing the run up there. If I set this to circles, you can see now we've got these, and I'll just quickly change this color just to make it a little bit more obvious. Which is which? Just make it pink. So there you can see we've got a pretty heavy dusting of both types of particles, as I said. Each one is designed to work in a slightly different way. They're both based on the same original system, which you can see here. And I mean, literally all I did to actually produce the second version was to, if I just get rid of this, just select that and delete that. All I did was, I'll just turn this off to stop it immediately, creating lots of particles. Just select the both events and then hold down shift and drag them across, as we covered in DVD 1 in the series. That produces two identical events to the originals. Just wire these back up, and there you go. That's it. You've got a replicant of this here. And you can just go in here and change all the values just like I did. Give it a new name, you know, go to rename, give it a new name. And you can customize, you know, each one of these values. Let's say we wanted less drag, we could say 700 drag. We could go into the wind and we could say maybe the small wind has more of an effect on lighter particles. In this case we've got smaller particles, so it's less of an effect, so let's put that down to 70. The large wind has less of an effect, everything. The gravity has more of an effect, let's say, so, you know, and by doing that you can just customize those particles and produce a different effect completely. Okay, so that's basically it for the snow example. You could probably improve on this, maybe by, as I said, adding some sort of collision in here for the walls. Put in a collision detection using an omni deflector. Pick this wall. I probably wouldn't, you know, pick this wall. I would just use a normal deflector for this because it's so much faster, and that will just cull any particles coming through from behind. And then for this wall I'd use a U deflector and set up any particles so that when they actually strike the wall they stick on the wall, and then you can get snow building up. That might make more of an interesting effect if you have an object which is close to camera. Let's say there's a pillar, a stone carved pillar, and you wanted the snow to actually, when the snow strikes it, you want it to stick on there. That's something that could be quite interesting. Another thing you could say is maybe the pillar's a little bit warmer than the rock above, and because of that the snow could melt. So when it collides with that pillar, you could pass it to a new event, and in that new event you could use a dynamic material where the material is actually set up to change opacity over time. So the particle sticks on the pillar, and then over, let's say, 2 seconds it just melts and disappears. And you could even make that random so that some particles melt, some particles don't melt. And you could also make it so that some particles melt more slowly than others, and so forth. Okay, so that's it for the snow. As I said, let's move on now and have a look at the complete opposite end of the heat range and have a look at our firework display.